Hans, what have we learned in the last 24 hours about why we think the SNB made this decision?
Well, the interventions got to be too costly. That's an easy one, right? They didn't want to defend, and they had some 500 billion Swiss francs in foreign reserve. It got too expensive. Thomas Jordan, he is the SNB bank president, most unpopular man in Switzerland right now. Here's the headline: knee fall. That's, on his knees before the speculators. There's a view in Switzerland that this is going to crater the economy. You could have a recession here, leave alone what that does to exports, the big pharmaceuticals. Everyone's still sifting through, and Tom, Brendan, the message I have this morning, no one knows just how bad it's going to be. We've got a couple more weeks before this all shakes out. Guys?
Hans, you're standing on the Munster Bridge there. To your left, you have the financial district. To your right, Zurich's Old Town, where the tourists go. Which of these sectors of the Swiss economy is going to be hit the worst, the finance industry or the tourists?
Well, tourists, in a way, that's predictable, right? I mean, I was on my plane down from Berlin last night with a bunch of skiers, and they were all moaning about how suddenly their vacation got 20% more expensive. We don't quite know the financial industry's exposure yet. Yeah, a few online trading platforms have gone bust, or at least one in New Zealand. There's one here in Switzerland that's announced a big loss. We don't quite know the exposure, at least to the Swiss banks that they have. And then when you look at Switzerland Inc., the big companies, the ABBs, the pharmaceuticals, we have to wait to see what earnings come in and how well they're hedged. So open questions. Tourism, though, that's an easy one. Down 20%. Bad for Tom and his drinking at the Belvedere in Davos in just a few days.
Not to say anything about the Kronenhall in Zurich.
Oh, I was going to say not to say anything about the piano bar in Davos. But that's another story. The good news is at Davos, you can put a lot of it on the Amex.
Really?
Really?
I didn't know that.
Doesn't Mike Bloomberg watch this show?
Next.
Seriously. We heard from the CEO of Swatch yesterday. He said he has no words. He described this as a tsunami for exporters. What are you hearing from Swiss businesses about the move?
Swiss businesses, especially in the Swiss Mittelstand, these are the small and medium-sized businesses, they are talking about Kurzarbeit. That means part-time work for some of their employers. So, I mean, some of these guys, they're so labor-intensive. A lot of this fine craftsmanship that you get in both Swiss industry and elsewhere in the economy, it's labor-intensive. And those labor-intensive products, for example, Swiss Army watches, right? They make those here. They have to pay salaries in Swiss francs. Ditto coffee machine makers. And all of them, for the most part, export abroad. 56% of Swiss exports go to the European Union.
Hans, the FT has a nice summary of the distinction between Hungary and Poland is their real estate markets are linked very much to the Swiss franc. In Poland, and folks, this chart is very important. It shows that the move is not the same against each country. This is Danzig, Gdansk. We have 117% depreciation problem over the last 3 years. Poland gets crushed off this, don't they?
Well, it's because a lot of Poles took out home mortgages that were denominated in Swiss francs, right? The message and this is maybe the longer-term issue for the global economy, right? Yes, this is Swiss-specific. You could have a recession here. The larger question is, are central bankers not just infallible, do they sometimes totally get wrong calls? And if we think going forward with whatever happens with the Fed, whatever happens with Mario Draghi and quantitative easing, this isn't exactly a vote of confidence for Federal Reserve and central bankers. Central bankers make mistakes. In the case of Switzerland, they may have made a pretty big one.
Hans, you spend most of your time in Berlin analyzing the German soul. I'm going to read to you a German reaction to the move yesterday. This is Christian Lips of Nord LB. That's a bank writing in Handelsblatt. What you need to know about the franc, the SNB seems no longer to believe that the ECB quantitative easing will work. And with this panicked reaction, could have maneuvered into a dead end. Hans, is that just German wish fulfillment?
No, I mean, part of it is like the Germans, we just have the same line coming out that all the deflation is oil related. Look, this was a preemptory move on anticipating quantitative easing. The last time the Swiss National Bank made a move on, say, changing the negative deposit rate, they did that on the same day that we expected. It was timed for January 22nd. What happens in January 22nd when you guys will be in Davos? I'll be in Frankfurt standing outside of the ECB. This is very related to what Mario Draghi does in Frankfurt.
Hans Nichols, thank you so much from Zurich.